I'll now invite Archbishop Fred to offer us a word.
Thank you, Suzanne, and all of you for the invitation to pray with you today. It's just lovely to be with you. And I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving weekend, different though it may be in this time of global pandemic. I have to confess, I found myself in recent days recalling Thanksgivings past. And most wonderful among them all were those I enjoyed with the people of the parish of St. John's Church in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. As we say, they went all out in decorating that great old church for Harvest Festival. Cornstalks tied to the end of every pew, baskets of fruit and vegetables and fall flowers set on bales of hay at the chancel steps, apples nestled in fall foliage on every windowsill, bread and grapes on the altar. It felt like a great old barn, complete with an amazing hammer beam ceiling. The scent of harvest was in the air as we filled the church singing Raise the Song of Harvest Home. At the entrance to the church, we always placed huge wooden bins where parishioners placed their offerings to the local food bank. And I'm happy to say that the bins were often overflowing. But the most important thing I remember about those celebrations of Harvest Festival in Lunenburg is that they actually marked the beginning of what we called prime time, a period of 6 to 7 weeks, taking us to the Sunday of the reign of Christ. It was a focused time for learning about the work of PWRDF and the principle of partnership that inspires and sustains it. It was also a time, unabashedly, for raising funds to support that work. And it all began with the singing of the great old hymn, Bringing in the Sheaves. It was a great time. We learned a lot, we worked hard, and we had loads of fun. All of this came back to me as I looked at our reading for today. It's drawn from Paul's second letter to the Corinthians, and in particular, the portion of that letter where he is making an appeal to the Corinthians to support, quote, a collection for the saints in Jerusalem suffering through a time of famine. And Paul calls everyone to think seriously about their gift, what they shall give, and the spirit in which they shall make it. He urges cheerfulness and generosity. He speaks of the rendering of this ministry and supplying not only the needs of the saints, but also overflowing with many thanksgivings to God. And I love Paul's image of a harvest of righteousness, the righteousness of God, right relations among all the peoples of God under God's loving reign, a harvest of righteousness. An expression of such a harvest can be found, it seems to me, in the manner in which the World Health Organization defines food security. That is, when all people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food, food that meets their dietary needs, and food preferences for an active and healthy life. Now, PWRDF has a long and steadfast commitment to both food aid, that's the relief part of our work, and to food security, that's the development part of our work. Food aid, as Simon Chambers so aptly wrote years ago, is about giving people something to eat right now, often in the midst of a natural disaster. Food security is about giving people confidence in having enough food for the future. We've all learned through the years that food security is actually very foundational to the success of many other initiatives in combating HIV/AIDS, malaria, and other infectious diseases. And it is absolutely foundational in maternal, newborn, and child health care. Many and wonderful are the stories of partnership with PWRDF and agricultural projects in several countries throughout Africa. And it's always a joy to see farmers, young and old, women and men, parents and children, rejoicing in the harvest of their fields, showing off their produce, delighting in the partnerships they enjoy with PWRDF, and giving thanks and praise to God. And today we're especially celebrating with and thankful for the presence of Josephine and Daniel Kisa and the staff of St. Jude's Family Projects in Uganda, assisting many farmers throughout the country to be food secure. Just 1 week from today, October the 16th, is World Food Day. It's described on the website as one of the most celebrated days of the United Nations calendar. And from the website, we also read that this day is organized to bring awareness to how our changing planet affects food production and distribution. Related events explore topics such as examining how agricultural needs adapt to climate change and how immigration affects food security. The goal is to set goals that will eventually lead to building a zero hunger generation. PWRDF remains on the cutting edge of all such goals. We rejoice with partners abroad, and we rejoice in our partnership with the Canadian Food Grains Bank, and we give special thanks to God for all farmers in Canada who work with CFGB in the interest of food security throughout the world. The prayer for Psalm 135 in the Book of Alternative Services reads, "Deliver us, O God, from every temptation to be satisfied with false imitations of your will, with talk of peace that masks the face of war, and thanks for plenty that leaves the poor unfed." The truth, as the hymn writer puts it, is that in the worldwide task of caring for the hungry and despairing in the harvest we are sharing, God's will is done. Yes, in the harvest we are sharing through food aid, God's will is done. And I want to say, in the harvest we are enabling through food security, God's will is done. May your Thanksgiving be blessed. And may our special gifts to PWRDF this weekend be made from glad and generous hearts. Amen.